Hi, this is Scott with 4D Tech. Today we are going to install the tailgate soft open feature on this F-150 that the upper trim levels come with this feature. We're going to be using the OEM parts to do this. These OEM parts include a replacement hinge piece for this side of the tailgate. This one has a pass-through on it that goes behind the tail light where the strut connects, and we'll also be installing the strut. The other end where the strut connects to inside the vehicle, the ball already exists on these vehicles even if they did not have the soft open feature. This can be ordered as a kit right off of our website as well. Let's get started. First, we'll need to remove the tailgate from the truck to gain access to be able to remove the hinge and replace it. If you have a camera, power lock, or both in the tailgate, you will first need to disconnect the wiring that goes from the tailgate to underneath the truck right in the center. You'll see the tailgate connector here. It comes from this hole from where it passes through from the tailgate around to this connector here, and all we'll simply do is push in on this tab where my thumb is and disconnect the connector. There are no ties or anything holding it, so it'll just pass through this hole once we remove the tailgate. Now that we've disconnected the connector of the tailgate, we'll be able to remove the tailgate. We'll need a few tools to do this project. We'll need a flat blade screwdriver. We'll need a socket wrench with an 8mm socket and a larger socket wrench with a T50 Torx on it. The larger the socket wrench, the better. These bolts are going to be kind of hard to get loose. You're also going to want to make sure you use a good quality T50 socket. With how tight the bolts are, you don't want the socket to slip out or damage the threads of the socket or damage the threads of the bolt. So let's get started removing this tailgate. We'll take the flat blade screwdriver and we need to disconnect the cables first. We'll take our tools and parts and move them up into the truck since we'll be moving the tailgate. You'll also want a good place to set the tailgate when you remove it. I have a large piece of cardboard sitting on the ground beside the truck here. You'll need to do the same thing on the other side. Once those cables are removed, you'll tilt the tailgate till you see the part of the tailgate that needs to pass through the opening on the hinge. And then slide the tailgate out the other side. The tailgate is pretty light coming off of here. It's just large in size. From what I understand, if you have the integrated step, the tailgate will be much heavier and you'll probably want a second hand for that. Next, let's remove the tail light to gain access behind there with the two 8mm bolts. Now with the tail lights, they have pegs that go in straight, so you'll want to pull the tail light straight back. You don't want to pry it away from the vehicle. Like put your fingers here and put the palm of your hand here to kind of help it. And you'll pull back, and if you don't want to let the tail light hang, which I prefer not to do, you just push in these little tabs right here and unplug the two bulbs. This one, the push tab, doesn't want to work very well. So we'll just grab our flat blade screwdriver and help the push tab and then disconnect it. Make sure your tailgate, tail light, and everything that you find safe places to set them so you don't scratch them up. You also don't want to set them on the ground near you so you end up kicking them when you're moving around. The next thing we need to do is take out these two bolts to replace the hinge. We'll take our socket wrench with the T50 Torx and take the bolts out. You'll want to get them both started and backed out pretty far before you remove one completely, so you're not spinning the hinge and clunking it against the body. Okay, we'll set this hinge aside and we need to install the new hinge. You can get fancy and order, go to the dealer, get a spray can of matched paint to your vehicle, or some auto parts stores carry it. If you do choose to paint this to match, which I'm not too concerned about, you'll just want to tape off this inside, the moving parts, so you don't get any paint in the moving parts. So we'll take this, and we got to feed through the hinge part. And put it back in with the bolts. Now, as long as the bracket behind here that has the threads does not move, you'll be fine for alignment. But what you'll want to do is align this so it's just covering your painted edges. That way your tailgate is aligned the same. Once again, if the bracket of this replacement hinge just covers your painted to unpainted edges from removing the old bracket, you should be properly aligned. I'm going to take my socket wrench or just something to get that ready for the tailgate to slide in. That'll make it a little bit easier. That may move when we put the strut in. So the strut will take these ends, they snap right onto the ball. So we're going to take this end, snap it onto the ball of the hinge piece coming through. And then back in here is the existing ball. I'm going to take just a cloth, clean off the dirt real quick. It seems that there is a little bit of grease preloaded in this strut, so we don't want to dirty up that grease. And we'll slide this, align it with the ball, and snap it on. Once again, we'll make sure that this is aligned for our tailgate. We'll put our tail light back on. These connections on the tail light are color coded. They click right back on. Always with any connector, just make sure you got it fully clicked in. Take the tail light, and just like we pulled it straight back, we want to put it straight on. There's some alignment pins here and here that you want to make sure are aligned. In that case, we had the harness kind of caught there, so we had to pull the tail light back off and just realign the harness. Anytime something's giving you trouble pushing it back on correctly, there's probably something in the way. It should freely go back on. So now we'll just put these 8mm screws back in. Next, we'll need to put the tailgate back on. On the left-hand side, you'll want to slide that pin in first. We'll want to tuck our wire through the hole on the tailgate and then slide the other side in last. Okay. You just want to push that in slotted area. We'll reconnect these cables. If you had to disconnect the connector from the tailgate, be sure to plug it back in. You just plug it back in all the way till it clicks. And that's it. Now we'll close the tailgate, open it back up. And now we have the slow opening tailgate. Once again, you can find these parts right on our website as a bundle. Now you see how simple it is to do the modification to add the soft open to the F-150 that is available in the upper trim levels.